now has two very prominent Latino senators. We have Marco Rubio and we have Ted Cruz, but they're, of course, of Cuban-American extraction. Are they going to be, you think, an asset in this regard, or is the fact that they are Cuban somehow other than, as Will points out, the broad mainstream of Mexican and Central American Hispanics? Is that are they good messengers for exactly what you're talking about?
Does a Cuban-American appeal to a Mexican?
That's basically what we're trying to
addresses this in the book.
Buck, I don't think we should think in terms of ethnicities. You know who's doing a really good job in this? Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee, a senator from Utah, a Mormon, his religion is Mormon. He talks about opportunity. You know, that imagery that I bring up about Norman Rockwell, I took that from a Mike Lee speech. He understands this. Paul Ryan understands this. Paul Ryan understands about how to talk to people in the lower quintiles, about mobility, about the American dream, about breaking out of a hole they're in, and he understands.
But there's obviously an asset to a Marco Rubio speaking in
Absolutely.
Spanish.
I like Marco Rubio. I like Ted Cruz. I like all these guys. But I'm saying, don't think, everybody, all conservatives, need to speak in the language of opportunity and need to understand that people who are in a hole that didn't necessarily get there by themselves. We need to explain to them how they can get out of it without government.
But Mike, that is something that has been a generational indoctrination for a long time now that separates the Hispanics from everybody else. And you talk about in your book what's going on in the school systems and how the curriculums in school, that they no longer teach American civics, which was something that unified everyone, and that was part of the immigrant wave of the early 20th century. That's very different than now, and how you see that influence in the difference between Texas and California. Can you just talk a little bit about that, and then I'll let my colleagues get in.
Assimilation. The Founding Fathers understood from the very beginning that this was going to be a country of immigrants. Immigrants preceded the founding of this nation. Scots-Irish began to come here in huge numbers in the 1710s. The German Americans were here in the 1600s. We were going to be a country of immigrants. The Founding Fathers understood this and worried very much about the survivability of the American experiment. And they saw the local schoolhouse as the place where Republican values, with a small r, civic values, were going to be instilled in students, especially immigrants. That worked fairly well, very well, until sometime in the mid-20th century when all of a sudden we decided to throw in the towel.